your match with John Cena at One Night Stand keeps coming up now that John Cena's turned heel.
He knew what to do that night. He's mastered the heel persona.
Do you remember that if Cena wins, we riot sign?
I believe that some of the ECW shows did end in riots. They had a lot less at stake.
What's the secret behind how you pick a pile driver?
The secret is...
What's the story behind the 420 leg drop?
Okay, to me, he said, Gibbs wants to know what is the 420 leg drops. 4 legs because I pick way up and then I kick my feet out. And 20 is our combined shoe size. But Paul knew what it was, though.
Do you consider yourself retired?
No, I don't. I don't think I will.
Always good to see you. RVD and CVV.
Hey.
You're wearing...
Indeed. Yeah. Hey, why'd you change your name from Van Dam to Van Vliet? I wanted to start off with that.
That's a good question. I didn't want people to mistake me for you.
Yeah,
that's why.
I get it.
I saw someone made a meme. It was like time traveler steps on an ant or something, and it was Rob Van Fleet. So it was you cutting an ECW promo with Bill Alfonso, but it's my face on you.
That's great.
Like amazing.
Like, yeah, what do you call those in the comic book world? Amalgam, right? Amalgam.
Is that what it
in the
is?
comic book world, when you have like he's half Superman, half Hulk.
Oh yeah.
No, they fight each other. That's different. When Marvel fights DC, that's an amalgam. I think a character is just a mesh. This
is just
might be a word.
An alternate universe.
Sweet.
Crazy. Great shirt, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, man. Great dude.
And perfect timing because we just recorded an interview with Chris Bay that'll be out in 2 days. It'll be on Thursday. So great time.
I'll be watching, man. I'm really looking forward to hearing what all he has to say. I don't know if he mentioned this or not, but after I saw him the first time, I said a little something. I don't know what it was about on the podcast, but whatever it was a bit much to say a little bit early.
Yeah, well, his progress has been incredible, and he's got such an amazing story. So I can't wait for people to hear that.
Yep.
What's Only Wrestlers? I keep seeing you posting about Only Wrestlers.
Yeah. So Only Wrestlers is an entity that I helped create, that I'm part owner of, and I like to explain it in 2 different halves, right? So that half of it is it's a platform where that bridges the gap between the fans and the pro wrestlers in a way that I don't think has been done before, and in such a way that like I actually respond to all the messages that I get on my Only Wrestlers profile. And the fans subscribe to the favorite wrestlers. We have over 300 wrestlers now, and we're getting more like all the time, like every day. I still have a lot of my friends that I still have to teach them how to use it. But when they do decide to use it, it's up to them, like how deep into it they want to go. Because on my profile, I have a place for photos, for videos. I have a daily feed. I have a story on there, just like Instagram, and there's even a store, like a little shop where you can buy stuff on there. And so each profile for each wrestler, the fans subscribe to it. They can follow the content. They can message them. There's all kinds of ways to benefit both of them. But the other half of it is that when they join and become a subscriber, then they're part of this association. And moving forward, the association helps us with important decisions. All right. So the Only Wrestlers Association is actually everybody together. So it's the fans and it's us, the wrestlers, the company, and we're running live shows. So the fans get to help us make decisions. They vote on things so far, like who's going to wrestle who. Sometimes it could be stipulations. Coming up, they're taking a vote on which town we should actually come to. And also moving forward, the more we grow and the more the association grows, the more the value of what they're able to vote on grows as well. So the whole thing just made to grow. We're still like at a point right now where I would say like a beginning phases. It's going to be our first live show on Thursday, March 20th.
Yep, in Hollywood.
Yeah, in Hollywood. We're excited about it. It's star-studded. A lot of fans are excited about it. And we're also with the show hoping to raise a little awareness, some funds for the fire victims. I lived in LA for a long time, and also I was a big fan of those huge houses that burnt down. And so I looked at a lot of those when I moved out there. Some of those fires weren't too far from where I did live, but
wow.
Yeah. But anyway, we're not going to be able to do like what the Grammys did or whatever when they don't. But it's an important cause. I hope that we can raise attention and awareness and donate some stuff.
So people can buy tickets at onlywrestlers.com to go see it live. They can also stream it live as well.
Yeah. So the way that works, it's pretty cool because the price to stream it and watch it anywhere is $6.95. But if you subscribe to one of the wrestlers anyway, then you get to see it. But you can do both with one ticket. So you can buy a ticket to watch the streaming, or you can follow Brian Cage and get whatever content and see what we're about, and then get to watch it free. So everyone that's on the show, we made their subscriptions $6.95 just for this first event to promote it. It may change, it may not change for each individual wrestler after that. By the way, myself and Katie, my wife, and Only Wrestlers, we're all free subscriptions all the time, so you don't have to pay to join and follow us and see what we're about. And by the way, something I just want to mention too, I was saying like we're just set to grow. Like we have so many plans coming down the road. We want to make this like an all things go to like a hub, onlywrestlers.com, and I want to do my podcast there when I'm able to. And we do have a chat room that we're still learning to really utilize, where it's a community chat center. Everybody can be there at the same time. You, me, the wrestlers, the fans, and so that's pretty cool for the social value of it. And for me, when I get on the app and check it out, I usually go check and see what questions were left in the chat room, catch up a little bit, and we're looking to take over with you getting to be involved in it.
Well, I think we need to clear up that like when people hear Only Wrestlers, they think Only Fans.
Oh, right.
So we need to people are conflating the two. That's not the same type of content.
Very good point. But by the way, so here's what I learned. And by the way, I mean, Only Wrestlers sounds like Only Fans, and that's part of the catch with the name, easy to remember. But Only Fans got to be known for its sexual content. But did you know there's actually a lot of profiles on there that have nothing to do with sex?
A lot of them, yeah.
Yeah. So it's up to the individuals on OnlyFans on what they're going to want to share as content. With Only Wrestlers, it's what wrestlers want to share. So if you're, I wouldn't join up if you're looking to watch, hoping to see solo scenes, if you know what I mean, from the boys. But what I like to do, because it's so easy to leave the story and it adds up, I like to just keep them up with me, what's going throughout my day. Like, hey, I just finished this podcast with Chris, formerly Van Dam, now Van Vliet. And then could add to it later. Dude, I'm in the gym. Did you make it today? Just it could be like whatever. But I wouldn't go to Only Wrestlers for that. That's a good point, because people do.
I think they're thinking, if I'm subscribing to Rob Van Dam or Brian Cage, well, I don't want to see them naked.
Right. And one of the first pieces of promotion that started getting out there when the wrestling sites started picking up on it. They were showing scenes like me and Katie in the hot tub and stuff like that. So that kind of helped lead you to believe that it might be something more risque than it is. But it's really, it's about the fans. They're able to be heard like nowhere else, where we're not just taking their advice. They're actually part of it, making things change. And right now, we need to improve the communication so everyone can tell us what they want to see more of, less of, what's working on the site, what's not, stuff like that.
John Cena might be coming to your town. A whole bunch of new dates have been announced for the John Cena retirement tour, and of course, Heel Cena will be wrestling at WrestleMania 41. And that's why I want to give a huge shout out to today's sponsor, SeatGeek. With over 28 million downloads, SeatGeek is the #1 rated ticketing app. There are more than 70,000 events listed on SeatGeek, including concerts, sports, festivals, and more. On top of those WWE tickets, right now you can get tickets to the NBA playoffs with SeatGeek for that Monday night. Download the app and have that promo code automatically applied to your account. So
going, and the fans will be all part of it. We're looking at maybe May right now, and we're looking at Chicago, which is a great city for wrestling.
Yeah.
I love to go to Chicago and have everyone say, dude, I was there at the Money in the Bank match when you were right here. And lots of good memories from Chicago. And so that's thanks for letting me get that out too, so everyone can keep an eye out for that.
Are you planning to wrestle on these shows?
Not on the first one. Okay. And that's, for me, that's as far as plans go right now. Yeah. But with the first one, I'm going to be there presenting it, I'm Ted Turner. I just said that because they wanted me to say Rob McMahon. But whatever. Tony Khan, one of the partners is a wrestling promoter. I am. We got good partners that have their strengths. And although I was involved in running shows and promoting shows years ago, like 92, 93, and I did learn a lot from it. But anyway, we do have, besides myself on the show, in a non-wrestling capacity, we do have some awesome wrestlers there, such as the mighty Chris Masters and Luke Hawx, Brian Cage, who we mentioned, Charlie Haas. I'm pointing at him because I just saw his face. Like, what's that dude's name? Looking forward to seeing Charlie Haas. I haven't seen him in a long time. There's some lady wrestlers there. Katie is one of them, and of course, Tessa Blanchard, who's a huge name in the business, and Jordan Blue. You show the poster, dude. Show the poster. Violent J. So Violent J is going to be doing premiering something, his version of like what we used to see in like the Piper's Pit or something, some kind of a interview shop, his style, Juggalo style. I'm looking forward to being his first guest.
Are you still wrestling?
I am. I'm not. It's easier to say I'm not wrestling.
I'm not wrestling.
Yeah. So it's been a minute. It's been almost a year since I've had a match.
Yeah.
And I do have some matches that are in conversation in the near future, like over the next. People are talking about even a year from now. And I'm like, dude, I don't even know if I'm going to wrestle a year from now. You know what I mean? But stuff coming up that I can't talk about yet, and then and stuff like bookings like throughout all of 2026. For me, it's something that it's still like, if you want to discuss it, it's a numbers issue for me. I feel great.
You look great.
Thanks. You look great.
Stop it. You look great. We saw you in the crowd at WWE.
Yes.
And you looked great. The wide angle camera lens made one of your arms look massive and the other one look small.
Yeah.
I think we can see now, ladies and gentlemen, Rob Van Dam's arms are of equal size.
Damn.
See,
I am right-handed, But,
did you see the meme?
Yeah, that was a funny one.
The meme of you as Quagmire?
Yes.
This is the one I'm...
One arm looks like a little, well, because it almost looks like a little Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Yes. Well, Quagmire's been busy, doing other things.
That was funny. Yeah, I hearted it, liked it. I thought it was funny. Yeah. But then there's also like some people that will comment and be like, oh my God, I hope there's nothing wrong. There's always like some people that...
It's a wide angle lens. You were on the edge of the wide angle lens. It would have made whatever was on that
was funny,
distorted. Very funny.
Funny's funny. Yeah. But that was awesome to be there. It's good to be under their umbrella right now because WWE is so huge. And I feel like they're growing so much that they're just finding little crevices to stuff growth into.
Sure.
So even just being associated with them is a great time to be a legend.
You're under the Legends contract with them.
Yes, I am.
Yeah. The video of your match with John Cena at One Night Stand keeps coming up now that John Cena's turned heel. Because that was really the last time we got a real, true heel reaction for John Cena.
Yeah.
And it's funny that, now it is almost 20 years later. Now John Cena's getting booed because he is a heel.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. He knew what to do that night, perfectly at One Night Stand. And he's really great at what he does. So I think he's going to really master the heel persona and take it some places that we didn't expect. And by the way, I mentioned this before, but I had seen him get booed. It wasn't a lot. But leading up to that One Night Stand match, there was a town or two. There's one, I think it was Wales, was the first time I think that I've heard it. And it was very similar to the vibe in Manhattan.
Hammerstein.
Yeah, the Hammerstein Ballroom. It was very similar. Is the Manhattan Center and Hammerstein Ballroom two different places that look exactly the same?
That's a great question.
When I walk by them, I think I'm seeing them both,
Yeah.
Anyway, that was the first time I seen him get booed, and he was great. I don't know if I told you this story or not, but I'd never seen it. And he was like, good. He goes, that's right, boo me. He goes, let me know how you feel. As long as you're out there in the crowd and you're expressing yourself and you're screaming, then I know you're having a good time and that's what it's all about tonight. And, obviously he turned them. All of a sudden, they were cheering him. And I was like, wow, that's why he gets paid the big bucks.
Do you remember when you first saw the If Cena Wins, We Riot sign?
Well,
was it during the match or was it earlier in the match?
I don't remember that. I couldn't tell you exactly. Yeah.
It'd be funny if you saw it earlier in the night and you're like, oh, damn, look at that.
No, but I believed it. And, some of the ECW shows did end in riots. They had a lot less at stake.
I've always wondered, what was the biggest difference between the ECW ring and the WWE ring? Difference in size, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say, first off, there's about 2 feet difference.
18 by 18 and 20 by 20.
Right. And then and part of it is because of the size, but also the ropes were much tighter in ECW. And another reason that's a fact is because we used steel cable through rubber hose, and WWE used nylon rope. So there was a big difference in that, in the stiffness. I got trained like in Sabu's backyard with sometimes there would just be a garden hose because for whatever reason we didn't have the other one, and it didn't offer that much support. And they would have that turnbuckle so tight with just a cable. It was almost like a rod because you run into it and it hurt so bad. And at that time, like our ribs would be so bruised every time working out. And that's the way I learned. So going to nylon feels loose to me. Like I can't count on it. The spring, like boom, giving me the reverberation.
The first time I went to an ECW show and there's a guy who would wipe the ropes down in between matches. I'd never seen that before.
And they would chant, go, 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 go. In ECW,
Oh, what were they chanting?
Clean it up, asshole, clean it up. That's what they used to chant. That's what I remember.
Maybe the Canadian crowd, I went to the show in Mississauga, maybe they were nicer.
I could see that being a possibility.
Maybe they were just, because they were going, go, 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 and he's going faster, faster, faster.
That's great.
Clean it up.
Yeah, yeah, he got better treatment north of the border.
That ECW crowd's just so wild. So wild. Did you ever experience, aside from One Night Stand, did you ever experience a crowd like that anywhere else?
Not exactly, no. But there's certain pockets around the planet, where I could tell they were big ECW fans. One of them that sticks out when you asked me that was leading up to the match with Cena, because I had the Money in the Bank briefcase and I wrestled Matt Striker, and it was in Belgium. And that crowd just stuck out to me as being the most ECW-like crowd that I had engaged since I left ECW at that time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it was obvious that they really watched it all. And I think also with the name Van Dam, there's a connection there, with Belgium, Muscles from Brussels. So that was part of it too. But they were awesome. I remember thinking like, wow, that'd be good to know. If I never wrestled here in Belgium, this one time, I would never know that. Everyone was like such big fans of mine and everything I stood for, the whole extreme hardcore movement and perspective. Yeah.
The obvious ones are Philly, New York, maybe Chicago, but to hear that Brussels was that hardcore is amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
A great fighter once said, it ain't about how hard you can hit.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
They say the first impressions are important, but what about my Blue Chew? All of the details and the safety information.
There was no seeing one of them going down and the other one sticking around. I wouldn't have developed the way that I did. I wouldn't have probably been as comfortable or fit in because before 96, when I came to ECW, I was hardcore, and I was doing things that I hadn't seen done in the ring. When me and Sabu would wrestle, we were diving out to the crowd and breaking tables and stuff. And then when I wrestled Sabu in ECW, the crowd had never seen like anything like that, like what we were giving them, but we had. So I feel like if I hadn't come to ECW, I wouldn't have found a proper voice, and I probably would have been much, much different, which whether I was as comfortable or not, it might have been better for business. I mean, I have a lot of things that work against me, whereas to be the absolute best pro wrestler. Like, well, what would that mean? I mean, you have to include not just your moves, and you got a lot of P's, not just your promos. What about politics? You got to be good at politics. That's something I could never do. You know what I mean? I forgot what I was going to say about some of the other P's, but you have to be good at being a puppet. There's another P. Sometimes, because you're a vessel for other people's values, creative ideas and stuff. And in a lot of ways, I wasn't as flexible on a lot of stuff like that. I was more stubborn, and so having all that, as details to answer that question, I don't think it would have worked out as good to me if I wasn't able to build myself in my more organic, natural environment. But in the end, if I would have been able to be, whether you want to say it as manipulated, but if I would have gone down some other paths and learned to like them or deal with them or whatever, then who knows? Maybe I'm champion of the world right now.
They always talk about in wrestling how you need to have patience, you need to slow down. Oh, that's right. I didn't even do that on purpose.
No.
Slowing down is such a huge thing in wrestling.
Yeah.
And your entrances in ECW are the epitome of slowing down. They were like 20 minutes long.
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
Well, first off, I never had a time limit. That was never in ECW a factor. Once I got to WWE, every match is just about the time limit. So that's one of the biggest differences that people wouldn't even think about normally as a fan. Think about the style. They didn't let you be you. It's like, I'm thinking like, what can I do in 4 minutes? Taking out a minute for your entrance and then a minute afterwards so Dolph Ziggler can run in and do whatever he's doing. No time limit. Just feel it. When I knew I was coming up, I'd be back there warming up with Fonzie, doing jumping jacks. And like when my music would hit, and first off, I'd hear the crowd chanting RVD, usually. RVD, RVD. I'd be back there warming up, pouring water on my head, jumping around. And then when the riff hits for my song, Walk, yeah.
So good.
All right, I'm like, get out there, Fonzie. And then Fonzie would go out there first and blow his whistle. And I'm like, I got another 30 seconds. Do some push-ups, some more jumping jacks, drink some more water, and then Fonzie's probably getting tired of pointing at the curtain. And then boom, I go through there. And that's just how I started. I just stayed in that vibe, went through, stopped. I got nowhere to go. I'm here to see the fans. I'm here to connect with them. Let's see who we got here, what's going on. And boom, it was a high for me, connecting and riding that vibe, surfing that. And so I would just go aroring, high-fiving everybody, celebrating, partying with every single fan. Yeah. And it was like there was so much noise going on that it didn't feel like it was like a dull or low point of the show. At least not where I'm from.
Singing along to wrestlers' entrance themes has become a thing now. They were doing that for you in the 90s.
Yeah.
Respect.
Yeah, they were.
What do you say?
Yeah. By the way, I think Steve Crane and Tommy Dreamer have the record for taking the longest before a match, before they locked up. We were in Fort Lauderdale, Florida at the War Memorial Auditorium, and I had to follow them if I remember right. And after they'd already been out there a half hour, like I looked through the curtains and that building had like a stage on it. They're both sitting in a chair with a microphone talking to each other. Had another 30 minutes to go till I think they went like an hour before they even locked up. Like there's nothing left in the crowd after that. What are you guys doing? Interviewing each other? I don't know what they did.
You know how hard it is to boo Rob Van Dam?
I've never tried it.
Well, you've been heel, or I guess you've been presented as a heel, but like it's hard to boo you. And I feel like that's a special thing.
Yeah, I mean sounds like a hell of a compliment. There's certain, I feel like I get a lot of cheers even against the plans or the agenda sometimes in the wrestling like environment, and so that's where everybody wishes I would just stay. But I'm so transparent, open-minded, open mouth in a way that like when I do my podcast or I do interviews or stuff, I stand up for things I believe in, you know what I mean? And I talk against things that I don't, even if they're commercially accepted or a government agenda or whatever. So I think like through a lot of just being honest and genuine, I found there's some people out there that sure seem like they would prefer to give me a boo rather than a yay. At least that's the way I take it when somebody tries to change me into them, Chris, you would be so cool, but man, I wish you would, talk more about, women abuse or whatever. You got this black it's like, okay, I'll consider it, whatever. But everybody has their own stink they want to put on you as the expression goes. And I've always had that with wrestling. Even I think everyone gets it when you're in school, why are you hanging out with that kid? He's not cool. Nobody likes him. Yeah. I've always hated that, hated all of that. So I found a a common and comfortable bond with just being a nonconformist. And the more people talk about me being one of a kind and unorthodox, the more I felt like, yeah, I'm proud of that.
You've been you. You've been authentically you your entire career. Did you ever feel like there was a point in your career where someone tried to put you in a box?
Oh, sure. I feel like I had to fight against it always, and still do. Yeah. It's, I don't want to talk bad about him, but he just came up this morning. But this is what I think of anyway. I think about way back in '92 when I'm in WCW. There was two guys that I wrestled. Rip Rogers was one of them that said, all that stuff you do, fancy, flips and kicks and all that, it don't mean anything unless you save it. He said, just do one special kick at the end, and then that way it means something. And I felt like, man, that would suck. You just took everything I love about wrestling away. That's how I saw it. I get now what he meant, because I feel the same way when I'm watching one of the products and I see the guy get a power bomb, stand up, power bomb the other guy, stand up, super kick, don't fall, super kick the other guy, 3 super kicks, spin around, boom, hurricane around, and they both stand up and both fall. And I'm like, how do they expect anybody to be emotionally involved in what they're doing when they're, and I feel like maybe I could have been one of the things that bridged that. But to me, I had to get my moves in, because it wasn't about the script or having anything planned out before then. If I wanted to, like, I'm going to leg drop you, or I'm going to do a 360 leg drop and then hit you, you don't need to know the difference. And so when I do it, it's not going to come across like we had a plan, because we didn't. And so I feel like most of my career, like, I had to get all that stuff in. And so because of that reason and other reasons, I'm different, and it comes across different. So at least I look at, maybe it's defensively, but I look at me and what I did like that compared to what I complain about nowadays. But going back to what Rip Rogers, I said Rick Nelson was the other guy. They don't mean nothing. You have to do all that stuff. It don't mean nothing. You just do one kick at the end, bam, and then it means something. And I'm glad that I didn't listen to their advice, even though I know now what they meant. And they didn't mean to hold me back or anything, but they would be. It's like, hey, if you normally run and clothesline a guy, but instead I run and do a leg lariat on the guy, guess what? That's my moveset. Yeah. Why are you going to give me my moveset and make it in a box, as you say, just like everyone else's? So I feel like I've always fought that and still do.
When you first went to WWE, your singlets looked different. Why didn't you have the tie-dye at that time?
I never wore tie-dye. You know what tie-dye is? That's what Michael Hayes said. That tie-dye reminds us of the 70s.
Airbrush.
Right. When I first got there, no, I did have airbrush. And then Michael Hayes said, the tie-dye reminds us of the 70s. So like I just said, it's exactly what he said. He wanted me to wear something like Kurt Angle wears. And so he had the seamstresses make me an outfit that wasn't airbrushed. It had like a dragon sewn on it or whatever. And they did that 2 or 3 times. And what I ended up doing was wearing those outfits on the house shows that weren't on TV. So I would let them get beat up and worn out. And then the bright, newly airbrushed outfits, I would save those and wear those on TV. There's probably 1 or 2 TV matches where I had to figure out that that's what I was going to do after they first gave me those outfits. But I do have those, and you see pictures of me in them. And that's one of those things that we just agreed upon, where I was stubborn and didn't go with the Kurt Angle kind of outfits.
I had a friend recently that was telling me he loved watching things on the WWE network. And I said, link down below.
He said like bright colors or something, because in Japan. And Giant Baba wanted me to wear something that looked catchy. He said like bright colors or something, because I had the black and the red, just boring, plain singlet. And you know what? There's an action figure that I just now realized that's what that figure is. I have an action figure, like maybe 3 of them, maybe 4 even, because the old ECW. But anyway, it's just a plain red outfit. And I used to think, wow, the toy makers were lazy, they didn't put anything on it. And then I thought maybe it was inspired by my first outfit, because I had a little me doing a flying sidekick behind a lightning bolt on the leg. Not a whole lot. And I thought they just left that out. But now that I think about it, those must have been inspired by the outfit before I got an airbrush that I was wearing when Giant Baba said, first off, he made me wear boots, and I used to go barefoot. And I was stubborn about that, but I'm glad, that he did make me do that. And then, yeah, I was trying to think of something to wear bright. I don't know if he mentioned the rockers or if they were in my head, but I felt like that's what he was talking about at the time. And I was like, damn, what can I do like that? And then I had the idea of just airbrushing my outfits. I went to Joe Holland at the flea market. He did that very first outfit, and every outfit since then.
I've always wondered about the ladder match you had with Eddie Guerrero, where the fan runs in and pushes Eddie off the ladder. Yeah. What were you thinking when you saw that?
I think I'm just thinking, it wasn't the first time that I had that happen, or seen it happen or have it happen when I'm in the ring. So I was just thinking, do they got it, or do I need to do something? No, it looks like they got it. All right, cool. I'm just gonna keep working.
Eddie took a real swing at that kid.
Yeah. Well, usually I find when the fans decide to breach the safety zone and get into the ring, usually everyone in the business wants them to regret it. That's gotta be safe for us. It can't be like a normal thing to have to turn around, and watch your back while you're trying to watch your front. I remember Sabu talking about Puerto Rico years ago, way before I ever went, and he was saying that to get to the ring, the wrestlers had to go underneath the bleachers, and that they would drop rats on them.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And another thing he said they would do would be heat up coins. They would heat up coins, get them super hot, and then drop them on them, or even throw them at them in the ring.
Wow.
And it's not, I wouldn't want that to be the norm.
No.
Let Puerto Rico keep that.
No. So at what point did you see this fan running in? Because he actually pushes Eddie off the ladder.
Yeah, I don't remember at one point. I don't think I saw him until probably he was coming through the ropes or something. I really don't remember exactly, but there was never a point where I thought anybody was in trouble except maybe the fan. I saw what he was doing. I saw Eddie landed right on his feet, no problem. And then once Eddie's and him are facing off, I already know it's over.
What's the secret behind how you took a pile driver?
Kinetic energy.
It defies physics.
Yeah. The secret is, in order for it to be the best and for me to get the highest elevation, no one gets higher than RVD. It has to be with Tommy Dreamer.
Okay, what is it about Dreamer?
He says it's his fat ass. I don't know, but it's just the chemistry. Like when me and Tommy are together and he pile drives me, that's the result. And when I tried it, with some other wrestlers, it didn't work. So it's something that just comes out of our chemistry.
What's the secret behind the way you take a DDT?
When your cat's me, then your dog is too.
And it's hard to know what's...
Because that looks... You spike yourself completely.
Well, I don't think that's a secret. I mean, that's if I was... like every time I bump this, your eyes go down like you hear it. Because you know. You're like, okay, I got to remember to take that out. Fix that sound. Right. Sorry, it's Chris Payne. I mean,
all good.
You guys know how to say, Chris?
Look at that, Chris Payne's talking.
Did you have the last interview? So if I was to teach someone how to take a DDT, I would tell them exactly what I do. I grab their waist and hug it in close to my head so that I know when they go, my head's going to go and my body's going to follow.
How do you not compress your neck?
There's no secret to it. It's just, boom, I hit it with my head and then, I don't know. I don't think there's any way to tell you. You know what I mean?
Is it just your flexibility allows you to do it?
I think other people can do it. I think it's like where I was joking when I said kinetic energy, but maybe it really is like the energy like I take like when I take a head bumps, whether you give me a face bump into the mat or whatever, like a lot of people drop to their knees in like in the kind of awkward and super safe, their hands and knees and maybe hit their head and roll over. But my feet are going to go like up so that to make sure that my head is with the momentum, with the lead of the action. And that's just feeling it and it being real. It's like boom, my head has to dive in first, and then I guess my remaining weight and momentum hopefully doesn't go straight down. It either stops, because it's going up and my head goes down. Maybe it stops and it's suspended or something until my body falls over. But the pressure just doesn't really go all to my neck. It's just, here, try it. Let me show you.
Yeah. It just looks amazing.
Well, thank you. It's just the mindset, I think, of, it being real. Like Shawn Michaels used to take face bumps. Like it'd be, seeing him, like it felt more like, like if you grab his head and you put his head down, like it's going with your hand. It's not a matter of the whole body collapsing and going down to the hands and knees, right? There's a fulcrum point. There has to be something has to go up in order for that to go down.
I've never heard it explained like that, but that makes a lot of sense.
One of a kind, baby.
What's the story behind the 420 leg drop?
Yeah. I did that move forever ago here in Las Vegas with Bobby Bradley Jr. when we were with aerial assault. That was one of the many moves that I would take way later when I would have tag matches because Bobby was a great tag team partner. I'd have him in front of me with his back to me and like flip him over me so that he would moonsault on the guy, and then I would do a standing moonsault. He would roll over and bam, I would hit. Me and Sabu would tag a lot, and I brought those moves, did them with Sabu as well. And then when Rey Mysterio and I were tagging, boom, I got someone else that I can do some of these moves that I used to do with, and I called it the 420 leg drop. I think 420 was it was kind of popular in the undertone at the time. So Vince didn't know what it was supposedly, but people that knew thought it was super cool, and they like to pop at it. And Paul came to me one time before TV, Paul Heyman, and said, Vince wants to know what is the 420 leg drop. And I said, oh no, that's when I grabbed Rey Mysterio. He goes, no, why is it called 420? That's all he wants to know. And I said, oh, he wants to know, is it a drug reference? And I said, drug reference. So no, there's 4 legs because I pick Ray up and then I kick my feet out. So we hit him with 4 legs, and 20 is our combined shoe size. And he looked at me and he smiled. He's like, gotcha. But Paul knew what it was. How
do you think Vince figured it out?
I have no idea. Maybe someone told him later.
That's great.
Yeah.
How did you come up with the Van Terminator and the Van Daminator?
Do you mean the names or the actual moves?
The actual moves.
So before my first day in ECW, I knew that it was a way different kind of promotion than I'd worked for before. Different style. I was down in Georgia, redneck woods, going, come on, everybody, let's go. So I didn't really have a southern accent, but that's, I was Tracy Smothers. Every day face was Tracy Smothers down there. And that's what the crowd wanted to see, USA. And man, I was intimidated by the product that I saw on the TV shows when I watched ECW, which I started watching because Sabu was trying to get me in, right? And did Paul call you? He's supposed to bring you in, blah, blah, blah. So I started watching. I was like, wow, these guys are, it's cool, but man, I really have to step up my game and have some hardcore moves, And so before my very first match, I had a pen and paper and I wrote down some things that I'd never seen before. One of them was to stand on the top rope, holding the chair folded like this, and then to dive off into a helo on the guy, but have my body, hit the chair on him. I did it a couple of times. It wasn't that impactful. It's something that maybe I would still do. Just, hey, I'll do this tonight, but it wasn't, like a finish, or it was just one of several things that I thought of. And one of them was, I wonder if I can throw a chair up, if I could be fast enough to kick it into the guy's face, spin kick it. And so that was my original idea, and I didn't know how the timing would work, if I'd be fast enough to do a back kick while it's still in its arch or what. But then, I guess through trial and error, I guess I tried it with someone, and turns out to catch it first before my foot hits it, which I'm not sure if it went that way in my mind at first, but when I did it, everybody loved it. And I was like, okay, I'm going to keep that one, And then ECW for me was always about outdoing myself, because that's what I saw the whole show doing. First time I went to an ECW show, I was just blown away, like right there in Philly, listening to that crowd and saying, how the show builds and builds and builds. And then like, boom, like everything, Smaj at the end, everything crazy. And I was like, wow, like how they're coming back here in 3 weeks. I was like, there's no way they're going to top that. Yeah. Sure enough, they did. They did everything like that. But then the lights went out. It was a whole new effect, well, and I noticed that's what they did. And so that's what I did. And that's when you look at my matches, like I would run and jump over the top rope and do a helo to the floor. Then I put 1 chair there, jumped over that. Then I put 2 chairs and I jumped over it. I don't know if anybody was noticing, but me, but that's how I was challenging myself. And I started like throwing the chair to Fonzie, and Fonzie would throw it to the guy, and I'd do the Van Daminator. Started crouching him on the top rope, jumping off the top rope. Fonzie would hold the chair, and I would kick the chair into him while he's on the rope. And while I was doing that, I would get more and more air and slide him down further and further to the other corner, challenging myself. And pretty soon I was like, man, I bet I could just clear the ring. And boom, there's a Van Terminator.
Beautiful move.
Thanks.
We didn't get ECW in Canada until much later, so I didn't see the jump into the crowd with Bam Bam Bigelow. I didn't get to watch that match, but it was always in the opening of the show, right?
Yeah, that clip's played a lot.
That clip has played a ton. I remember watching that clip and being like, did Rob Van Dam just jump into like a bunch of fans here?
Yeah.
It's wild to watch that.
Yeah. It was wild to do it. I loved wrestling with Bam Bam. I would do that move with only 3 guys back then in ECW: Bam Bam Bigelow, Bubba Dudley, and also Balls Mahoney.
Just because of their size?
Because of their size and the way that they caught, that they were going to, some guys would not even try to catch me, and it became a joke a lot of times, Matt Storm was one of them. And I don't know if I know I had a heavy ass to be asking someone to catch when I would run and dive over the rope and not even stop my momentum, not even slow my momentum down to grab the rope, but just come all the way down as first. And I knew I was heavy, but some guys would they would just turn, barely brush their shoulder or whatever. And with Lance, I remember one time in New Orleans, because me and Fonzie would talk about it all the time, and boom, Lance bumped out, he's out on the floor, I'm getting ready to do the dive, and I looked at Fonzie and I was like, watch me go hit the floor, because we both said before, he's not gonna catch. I said no. I go, here it comes, and I ran over. bam, all floor, solid floor. And I didn't even have a personal problem with it. It was just, like, for whatever, I feel like it was intentional, but I feel like he must have had his reasons. And I was in my head, like, I'm not gonna let anybody know if I'm even a little hurt. You know what I mean? That's just my own, that's the way I am. It doesn't matter what happens. So, you all right? I'm like, heck yeah, I'm all right. Let's do it again.
Did you talk to him about it?
Never talked to him about it. I've said this a couple times on interviews, so I wonder, like, what his response is. I wouldn't imagine him saying, I didn't sidestep it, but I imagine his response would be more like, yeah, I didn't want to break my, throw my shoulder out catching, 240 pounds dropping. I mean, I don't know. But there was other guys too, though, that, like, it was something me and Fonzie knew. Luckily, I was indestructible at the time, so I would do it to prove a point, even though looking back at it, probably didn't look too good not hitting him. Because I'm selling anyway.
If you have the best frog splash, who else do you think is up there?
I think that Montez Ford, definitely. Like, he gets up there.
It looks like a 5-star frog splash.
Yeah,
looks a lot like yours.
And of course, Eddie, Eddie's, that's the lifelong contendership. Everyone's going to compare our frog splashes.
Have you seen Logan Paul's frog splash?
I don't think I've seen it. It's probably pretty good.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
It's very athletic.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so I'm sure. It's a move that out of all my moves, it's the least original. Like everything else I do, no one else does or did or whatever. And that one, I watched Tonga Kid do a frog splash, Jimmy Snuka, who else back in the day? But I did kind of make it my own, by turning in the air, and trying to
and getting the height that you got.
And being able to go all the way across the ring. I started going for the furthest corner like every time for a while. That was my thing. And sometimes that's cool. Like if the guy's closer to one corner, go over and grab the corner, look at the crowd, like, nah, go over to the other ones. Like that. Sometimes that's fun, and then sometimes I regret it.
Because it looked like you actually got hurt doing this every time.
Yeah. Well, it's inconsistent as far as that goes. I mean, you can tell sometimes my face hits or whatever, but sometimes I could be winded or could be fine or could be a pretty solid hit. When I would do a frog splash to Big Show, and same thing to Mark Henry, there was no way that I was going to be able to reach the ground with my extremities. I mean, I can't, not my knees, not my hands, elbows, nothing. It would just be like, boom, because they're 3 feet tall and they're on their back.
Sure.
So I would go, ugh, and it would just knock all the wind out of me. And I knew that was going to happen, but it was part of it. And hopefully it was worth it. Hopefully it was the last move of the night.
What's the highest you've jumped on a frog splash?
How would I know?
Well, I'm just saying, like, is there one where you're like, I can't believe how high or far I jumped for that person?
No, but I used to like it. Sometimes me and Eddie would do like the crisscross thing, where we'd have two guys laying down there and maybe he would jump first and then me or whatever. And he would go for his furthest guy that's closer to me and I would go over to the other guy. I like doing stuff like that. That's fun, especially when you're a show off. And that's all I ever really enjoyed about wrestling anyway.
What's the thing in the ring that's hurt you the most?
Money worries can make you feel small. That's why GoTo Bank.
Probably getting my ribs broke. That's pretty painful. That's a pretty painful thing to have happen. I guess my worst injury, because the only surgery that I've had was my knee in 2005. Doing that 420 leg drop probably, but it was in a match with Rey Mysterio, that's why I say that, and the Bachelor Brothers. But my knee had been hurt for a long time. I was just whittling my ACL down to nothing, and then I finally snapped. And that hurt, and I had to have surgery on that. But a broken rib is like so bad, and I've done it a couple times. Last time was just like 3 years ago or something in Qatar. It might have been 2021, otherwise 22. And man, I knew as soon as I did it. But there's nothing you can do to feel comfortable. It's like everything you do, everything from just lifting your leg, it's like part of your frame. It hurts to breathe, and it's the whole time on the plane ride back. Because I was breathing, in a strenuous way, the steward they would come by, the flight attendants, and they would hear me just go, we're making these noises that are so bad. And they'd say, excuse me, sir, are you all right? I swear, every time they'd say that, I'd say no. And I'd look at them and they had no idea what to follow up with. And they were just, sometimes they'd walk away, and then they'd be like, can I get you something? Yeah, I know there's champagne.
You've been so outspoken about your support and your use of cannabis. Isn't it interesting that all these years later, WWE has kind of changed their opinion about that?
It's interesting, in a good way. I can't say I'm surprised. I always knew the direction that marijuana prohibition would go. I was just ahead of the curve, like I am with a lot of things. I'm ahead of my time in a lot of ways. And so people back when I started advocating and telling people, dude, put that cigarette down. That's killing you. Marijuana's not. Like everyone thought I was crazy back then. Everyone, smoking was so popular. Cigarettes, which kills 1 out of 2 users statistically in long term. And I was learning that they say cannabis is a Schedule 1 worst drug, but no one is overdosed from it because it's not even possible. And so, I was like, I gotta tell people about this and stuff. And back then they didn't want to hear it, because people like to be told what to do. They really do. And then I feel like people like to be told what to do, and then they determine their own self-value, their own self-judging by how good they're following directions. That makes them a better person if they stopped all the way at a 4-way stop sign when there's no other cars around. In a lot of people's minds.
Yeah.
Because they're doing what they're supposed to. Nowadays, everyone before that was like, oh, marijuana's horrible. Now, because the government's coming around, everyone's like, well, I eat a couple of gummies before I go to bed at night. It does help me sleep. What about all you guys saying it's going to lead to harder drugs? Like, when are all these people that are having a couple of gummies going to come out? I went straight to heroin, and then that wasn't enough, because that's what they believed before the government finally came around and said, oh, we weren't right about that. I didn't need that.
Your title run would have looked a lot different if WWE had adapted the mentality they have now.
Who knows where it would have went? I don't know what. I was always the last one to know what people had planned, and I don't know how long the championship would have been around, but for sure, I would have been able to do a hell of a lot more to keep ECW going.
You wouldn't have dropped the title as quickly as you did.
Okay, 1,000%. Now that was all because of the marijuana bust, which is not even a thing right now. In that same Hanging Rock, Ohio, for that same 18 grams, there's no, you're not going to get arrested. You're not going to, you're probably just going to get let go.
Yeah.
And like I said, I was just ahead of my time. Like to me, what I'm doing right now isn't necessarily a bad thing just because the authority says that it's bad. You know what I mean? Like people that think that, like, no, they say it's bad. That's bad. Well, they change that all the time. Coffee's good for you. Coffee's bad for you. Guess what? Do some research, make up your mind for yourself.
You've always been free thinking like that. You've always been like on the forefront of just like, this is the way I live my life.
I always have. That's the way I feel like my parents brought me up. It's always been important to me to be genuine and to be honest.
How's that book coming along? Last time I saw you, talking about writing a book.
I got 2 pages done since then.
Okay. I mean, it's heading in the right direction. All the RVDology.
Yeah, no, that is a project that is on my agenda like every day, and I really get to it, and I just judge myself by that. And I always have like so much stuff to do. I can't imagine being someone that's like, I couldn't retire because, I gotta do something. For me, I'm always putting off like so much. I always have a huge list of things. And that was really important to me. Otherwise, someone like Bobby Fulton that could come in. He's a scumbag, by the way. Do you know what's going on with him or no? You look surprised. Oh, okay.
I don't know.
But you know who he is. Yeah. Bobby Fulton.
Your former business partner?
No. Bobby Fulton is, he was fantastic with Tommy Rogers.
Oh, no, I don't know the story.
Okay. Anyway, I've just been, a lot of people, wrestlers, office people, fans have come up to me over like last month and told me they enjoyed me outing Tommy. So it's kind of like out there. But anyway, I just did a bunch of signings for him. He shorted me. As soon as I said something about it, I was full of crap. I was making it up. And then I find out he's done this to a huge list of people. There's a huge list of people that won't work with him anymore. Sonny Ono, Bushwhacker Luke, CJ Perry, Matt Riddle, Devon Dudley, RVD, Sabu Fonzie, huge list and way more than I know. But anyway, I learned that they've screwed a lot of people over. He's a carny and whatever. So anyway, my point was, if I don't write my book, someone like that could completely change history. So it is important to me, but yeah, it's not something that I can tell you that I'm done with.
Do you consider yourself retired?
No, I don't. And I don't think I will. I don't think so. That's how I feel right now. I feel like even if I don't take wrestling bookings anymore, I don't think I'll make a big deal out of it, retirement, because when wrestlers retire, they end up coming back and wrestling again anyway. No, I want one more match. No, one more. For me, that is completely eaten up the credibility that I had in wrestling retirement matches. And I doubt that I'll ever feel like, no, I'm going to be different. I never want to wrestle right now. I'm done. I just see me as just going with the flow. And someday when you say you're still wrestling, I might say, oh, it's been 6 years. And then I might have a match.
And then if I ask you the next year, you'll say, it's been 7 years.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
That's a good approach.
I've always said also, I just want to price myself out, not wear myself and my value down. Like a lot of my peers, they're worth so much in their prime, and then when they're not worth as much, they can't get booked as much, and they come down and compromise, and that has like a cycle effect where then they're worth less, and they've been saying that, oops, how many times have
It's okay, it's right there.
I'm very close.
We'll just move it to, here we go.
Mark my words, this fight ain't over.
But anyway, I've always said, I'm not going to do that. Like, I would rather just have less people be able to afford me until I don't wrestle that way. Instead of wrestling myself into a grave when my last match was $5,
It's such a simple taunt, but what's the story behind Rob Van Dam?
So I didn't know, just like most things that are really good, it was organic. I didn't know that I was coming up with something. You can see the young guys sometimes where they're like, I gotta have something stick, and so they'll just do whatever to the crowd, like, hey, you don't turn it back. Hey, whatever. It's sometimes I see things and I'm like, all right, if they got some real hard support, maybe I'll learn that. But for me, it was being a heel. People loved Sabu, so Sabu would do something and boom, Frankenstein me, whatever, something, and the crowd would go, Sabu, and then I would like, boom, give him a leg sweep, jump back to a moonsault, bam, land on him. He's holding his gut. I'm like, what'd you say? I think you meant this guy, RVD. Am I right? It took a while for me to get the 3 pumps though. When you watch it, I did a lot of this before, and I didn't know that I was being any different, that I was doing anything special until one time in Japan when the fans did it back to me. I was on the bus outside the Budokan, the arena, Nippon Budokan, and we had the bus went to get around the back. I had to go alongside of the fans that were all lined up to get in. It's something you do every time, because you go the same way every time. But anyway, I was looking out the window, and fans started like, oh, and they were doing this to me, and I was like, it never struck me until then, and then it was just so real. I was like, they're doing me. That's me. That's my thing. Whoa, they know me by that. I just thought that was so cool because I didn't realize that no one else was doing that. I was just expressing myself. And how I actually came up with it and thought of it was in the movie King of the Kickboxer. No, Kickboxer. In the movie Kickboxer with Jean-Claude Van Damme. Billy Blake's
your brother, of course.
Yeah, our brother. There's a scene. He wants to fight the main heel, Tung Po. But first, he has to go through this jobber in front of the promoters and impress them to get a match. And so he's in this club, and that's where they do the scenes where they do the exchange of the rib kicks, which me and Chris Benoit did. And Chris was like, "Kick me hard as you can," and I loved it. But anyway, bam, they kick each other in the ribs, and then Jean-Claude kicks him a few times, kicks him off the stage, and then he goes to the promoters and goes, "I want Tung Po," and I was like, he's kind of flexing, showing he's got some biceps without actually doing like a Hulk Hogan Billy Graham bicep shot. I think that's cool. So I had that in mind, when I say, don't you mean this guy RVD right here? And that's the whole story.
I appreciate that every time I see you, I get to borrow it and be CV.
Yeah, man.
So thank you.
It's really something. I'm going to be sending my manager around for picking up royalties. There's a lot of people that have taken that.
Yeah.
A lot of athletes in different sports too. Like once in a while, someone will say, "Did you see the football player that does the thumbs after there's a fisher, a whole bunch of soccer bowler."
Always good to see you. And congrats on everything you've got going on outside of wrestling as well. Of course, onlywrestlers.com, and the show you got coming up this Thursday. But you're a businessman. You're a business comma man. That's what you are. That's what you are.
Have to be.
Yeah.
You have to be. And sometimes because that's so true, I may have missed out on some of the enjoyment that I would have had if I was more of a fan and less of a businessman. You know what I mean? But I was intentionally stripped of that before I was allowed in the dressing room. Sheik and Sabu said, "You're either a fan or you're a wrestler." So don't talk to anybody. Don't ask for an autograph, because this was before cameras and phones. And they said, don't talk to anyone unless you're going to introduce yourself. Shake their hand, look them in the eye, just say your name, and that's it. Unless they talk to you, and then just introduce yourself. And so like right away, Sabu was like, you're not a fan anymore. You're a wrestler. And so now wrestlers are allowed to be fans. They're allowed to say, "Well, RVD's on my card. Can I get a picture in the dressing room?" I'm not gonna say no. You're a wrestler, not a fan, because it's changed so much. But for me, I notice a lot of the moments that people bring up, I kind of missed because my mind was on business, but I don't regret it.
I'm going to wrap this up with a question I asked you last time at the end. It's the question I ask everybody at the end of every conversation. Again, thank you for making the time to do this.
Hey, you said every time I'm on, you get more than double the ratings of any other guest you have. So what am I going to do?
I should have you on every week then.
Hey, I'm not going to hold back on it.
Gratitude's a huge part of my life. I wake up every day and I say out loud 3 things I'm grateful for. Do it before I go to bed as well. What are 3 things in your life, RVD, you're grateful for?
Ooh, okay. Man, I automatically, I only got 3. I want to sum up. I want to say my wife. I want to say, my mom and family. I want to say all the love from the fans. If I can cheat all that under just love.
It's your list.
Yeah.
That's one, love.
All the love that I get specifically from Katie and from my mom and from the fans and everything. I'm grateful for my freedoms. I'm grateful that we're all free as free as we are in a society where we're controlled so much. I'm thankful for that. And I'm thankful and feel very grateful for the ability to manifest my dreams.
Love that. RVD, CVV. Always so good to see you.
Awesome, man. Appreciate you, dude.